Hi, my name is Jen Reddish, and I am from The Essence of You. I am a registered master therapeutic counselor, and I am here today to share with you a workshop on communication skills with a focus on creating a sense of empowerment within yourself and creating respectful and empowered relationships with others. These communication skills I'm going to share with you today are going to be really useful to apply in literally any relationship in your life. Just pay attention to what might be like developmentally appropriate. If you have children, you can obviously create some tweaks and adjust the suggestions I make to be more appropriate to who you're talking to. And also really keep in mind that the skills I'm going to share with you today are about really creating like an open dynamic in your relationships with other people. And it includes some prompts around allowing yourself to be vulnerable and just be mindful that not everyone deserves to know all of you. So just be really mindful of your own boundary system and who you're willing to share what with. And like anything else, take what you like and leave the rest. Everything I'm sharing here today is just an invitation for reflection, and they're just suggestions for you to consider. So experiment with what works for you and what doesn't. Please change the language of things to make it feel more genuine and authentic to you and your voice. And if you have any questions as you're going through it, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. And if you are finding it useful as you're going through this workshop or afterwards, after you've been using these skills, I would love to hear what you think. So please reach out and let me know. This workshop in particular is really useful to pair with my nervous system reset workshop and my boundary setting workshop. If you haven't taken the nervous system reset workshop already, I'd really encourage listening to that workshop first, as it really gives a really good foundation for skills on regulating your nervous system and coming to in that space of like feeling calm and safe and connected, which is really essential when we are communicating with others. I do have a few tips on that in this workshop, but I go into way more depth in the nervous system reset. So make sure to check that out if you feel like that might be useful for you. So make sure you grab a pen, get yourself comfortable, and I hope that you find this workshop to be really useful for you and help you in creating respectful and empowered relationships with others. So before we dive into the workshop content, I just want to give a little disclosure that this is not a replacement for therapy and it's not advice for you. I'm just purely making suggestions based on my 17 years of experience working as a therapist and teaching communication skills that I have learned from a variety of resources myself. And I think it's really important that you take what you like and leave the rest. Take your time, pace yourself throughout the workshop. If you become triggered at any point and feel like you need extra support or extra processing, then reach out to somebody who can support you, somebody that you trust, whether that be a friend or a professional. And make sure that you are just practicing your own discernment and making this valuable in a way that works for you specifically. So what you can expect in this workshop is some information on how to foster healthier and more respectful relationships, practice your own self-led assertive communication. And what I mean by self-led is you are really going to learn how to activate your own self energy, where you're feeling like confident, capable, you're feeling like your today's age self, instead of practicing parts-led communication where maybe you're speaking from like a triggered part of you, which definitely leads to unhealthy communication and a lot of disruption in relationships. So our focus throughout this workshop is really on that self-leadership, connecting to your grounded self-energy and always speaking from there. You're going to be invited to deepen your awareness of your communication patterns, understand yourself and others better with more compassion, use somatic tools to ground yourself, discharge, and re-anchor yourself into your self-energy. Cultivate your awareness of your body language and tone to help you in communicating more effectively and more respectfully. And to identify triggers and core beliefs and understand why this is key for healthy, respectful communication. So when we think about healthy communication, we often think about conflict. So I just want to take a minute to note that not all conflict is resolvable. And I think that that's what we're after a lot of the time when we are going in to discuss some concerns that we have or to discuss any issue or discuss conflict with other people is we want it to be resolved. And the reality is that not all conflict can be fully resolved. Not all conflict can be fixed or resolved. And sometimes, if that option doesn't work out for us, then we need to look at how we can manage the conflict. How can we recognize where we end and where others begin so that we can respect each other's differences and perhaps carry on with that mutual agreement to disagree, being open to seeing each other's points of view, but still perhaps not coming onto the same page. So we're going to focus on what you can influence, which is your thoughts, emotions, responses, and boundaries, and accept that when you are in that unresolvable conflict, how you can preserve your own self energy and respect the limits and boundaries of others. So what we're really aiming for here is healthy communication, not control over others. It's really important to remember that we are powerless over other people and we only have power over ourselves. So always keep that in mind when we are interacting with other people. So I wanted to dive in to talk about the different styles of communication. You might already have an awareness of this. And if you do, then just pay attention to what stands out to you as we go through the 4 styles of communication here. So ultimately, if we are communicating from a passive aggressive, or aggressive style of communication, I would assume that you are activated into a triggered part of yourself and you are not in your self energy. So when we talk about that self leadership, that is when you are able to speak clearly, respectfully, and ultimately assertively. And that is the goal here. We want to learn assertive communication skills so that you can be speaking from that grounded space where you're feeling really connected to your center, really connected to your sense of self, instead of speaking from a triggered part of you that might default into one of these other dysfunctional communication styles. So, a passive communication style is when you have a tendency to avoid expressing your needs or emotions, and you might have little to no boundary system for yourself. Typically, when you're being passive, your needs go unmet and conflict remains unresolved. So often, passive people are going to be hoping that somebody notices something and hoping that other person steps in to take action so that they don't have to speak up for themselves. Often, it's people who are doing a lot of mind reading for other people and often filling in those gaps, often doing a lot of people pleasing, often doing a lot of caretaking for other people. And then you're sitting there thinking, why isn't anybody doing this for me? And so you can really get sucked into some martyrdom there when you're in that passive style of communication, hoping that somebody is going to see the need. So this is often coming from a fawning or fearful part of you that prioritizes safety over self-expression. It can feel really scary to speak up for yourself because what if you get rejected? What if somebody gets mad at you? And those are really valid concerns. But that's why it's really important to open up connection to those triggered parts of yourselves so that you can support that part of you and then you can still carry on from that place of self-leadership. Passive aggressive communication is often indirect or sarcastic, often with unspoken resentment beneath the surface. Typical outcome, it creates confusion. It leaves conflict unresolved more often than not. And the part of you that is triggered here is usually a part that's masking anger or fear. Aggressive communication, dominating, intimidating, or demanding. It often forces outcomes rather than inviting collaboration or inviting that healthy dialogue and communication with others. Often, when you're communicating aggressively, needs can be met in the short term, but connection and trust are damaged, and you're going to create a further rupture in the relationship. The part of you that is speaking aggressively is often a protector or manager part trying to control or defend or protect yourself. And then lastly, here we have our goal, assertive, self-led communication. It's respectful, it's direct, it's honest, it's clear, and grounded in healthy boundaries and ultimately healthy self-esteem. Typical outcome encourages genuine connection and mutual respect. You're often going to feel heard and understood when you're communicating this way. The other person is often going to feel respected and heard and understood as well. So this is when you are really grounded in your self energy, your self leadership, and the parts of you that are triggered are going to feel supported and calm and held by you. Now would be a great time to pause the workshop and do a brief journaling session on when you find yourself acting out in these different styles of communication, and really invite connection to the triggered parts of you. If you notice, oh, yeah, with this person, I'm often communicating passively, but in this environment, I'm able to communicate assertively. What's the difference? What parts of me get activated in these different situations? And why am I able to speak one way in some situations, but I default into these dysfunctional communication strategies in other situations? The more awareness you have, the closer you're going to come into that self energy. So, our communication is far beyond what we actually say, but our non-verbal communication matters more than you think. So, let's take a little bit of time to reflect on your body language and your tone of voice. Nonverbal signals can communicate way more than our words. If I'm saying all the right words, but I'm like huffing and puffing and I have a closed off body language, maybe I have a really aggressive tone of voice, perhaps I'm slamming doors while I'm at it, it doesn't actually matter what I'm saying because I'm conveying a much deeper message with my body language and tone. So, what you want to aim for is an open, grounded posture, relaxed shoulders. This communicates presence and confidence. Think about how you feel when you really are grounded in your self energy, when you're feeling confident, clear, and calm. Try lengthening your spine, dropping your shoulders, just really owning your space, taking up the space that you deserve to take up, and communicate from there while being respectful and soft and open towards the person you are speaking to. So often a slouched, rigid, or tense body posture can signal defensiveness or withdrawal. Whereas, like maybe like if you're really forward, really tense, perhaps you're towering over somebody, that can really communicate a lot of aggressiveness with just your posture and tone of voice. So you want to aim for soft, balanced eye contact to showing engagement and curiosity and interest in the other person. You don't want to be avoiding eye contact or darting your eyes. You don't want to be staring intensely because that can really cause more disruption in the relationship as well and break trust. You want to be mindful of the gestures you're making. Invite calm, open, intentional gestures to foster safety and connection with others. Like I said before, you don't want to be crossing your arms, you don't want to be pointing, you don't want to be fidgeting. Just be really mindful of how you're holding yourself. You want to be mindful of your facial expression. A relaxed face and gentle expression communicate empathy and openness. You don't want to be frowning, having tightness. Be conscious of like how your eyebrows are situated on your face. And you don't want to be forcing a smile or being ingenuine in how you are holding yourself. Be mindful of having a steady, clear, and warm tone of voice to invite that trust and openness as well. If you have a harsh, flat, or sharp tone, it can really convey judgment or defensiveness, even if your words are kind, like I said before. So sometimes when I talk to people about this, they say like, oh, well, if I'm focusing so much on how I'm showing up, then that's not authentic. But the reality is that you can still be authentic to yourself while being mindful of how you are presenting yourself. And ultimately, when we're being really mindful of our nonverbal communication, we're really practicing our containment boundaries. Maybe I want to scream about it. Maybe I want to point my fingers and slam doors while I'm talking. But that's when I can invite connection to that part of me that's maybe feeling really angry, whose boundaries have really been violated. Before I even go into contact with that other person, I need to first make a connection with that part of myself that's so triggered so it can have that connection and release. And then I can invite those containment boundaries in. I can lead from my self energy and go in for this communication with the other person, really being mindful of how my nonverbal communication is going to either positively or negatively impact the relationship. So it's so important to deepen your awareness of your triggers, your emotions, and your core beliefs, because this is going to lead you into connection, into that self energy again. Instead of just trying to cut to the chase, saying what you need to say, you're much more likely to be leading those conversations from those reactive parts of you instead of your self grounded energy. So you want to notice moments when reactions feel automatic. You want to notice what you feel and where it shows up in your body. And you want to become really aware of recurring thoughts that shape your beliefs about yourself and shape your responses towards other people. All of these things that we're doing to focus on increasing our awareness is going to reduce conflict escalation. It's going to support healthier boundaries and authentic connection with other people. So you really want to focus on using your power in a really respectful way when you're communicating with others. So you want to reclaim your own agency and speak from self energy. So you have so much power in how you speak, and it's more important that you use it wisely. Your energy matters. You can control your presence, your tone, and your choices. Your boundaries equal power. The boundaries that you withhold or don't are going to either make you feel empowered or make you feel disempowered. By learning boundary setting, you're going to be protecting your energy. It's really important to pause before you react. So you want to ground yourself, you want to check your own body response, tend to any triggered parts of yourself, and respond from self energy. So think about your energy matters first, your words matter second. So a grounded body, a grounded presence, grounded energy is going to really lead you towards communicating in a clear and calm way, really honoring your own inner authority. So in this next section, we're going to be exploring what triggers you and why. Link past experiences to current triggers to help you with increasing your self-awareness. Identify your recurring core beliefs, increase your awareness of your emotions, identify your wants and needs and how to get them met. And ultimately, we're going to be learning how to communicate effectively through respectful, assertive communication. It is really important, like I keep on saying over and over again, that you are leading through self energy and not from the energy of a triggered part of yourself. So, in order to get there, we really want to focus on nervous system regulation. Like I said at the beginning, this workshop would be really beneficial paired with my nervous system reset workshop, where I go through so many strategies and give you a really full, well rounded look at understanding your nervous system. So, I highly recommend you check that workshop out if you haven't already. But for now, I'm just going to lead you through a couple of strategies here. So, you really want to prepare for communication. If you know you're going to be going into communication talking about something that's a bit tricky for you, you can do this prep work really mindfully before going in for it. If you feel like you're blindsided by something tricky that happens for you, something triggering in the moment, feel free to excuse yourself. Take some time to check in and prepare your body and settle your nervous system before responding or before coming back to the conversation. So you really want to focus on grounding this nervous system support. There are so many different ways you can do this, but for now, consider noticing your body in space. Invite slow, deep diaphragmatic breathing to help you with activating your vagus nerve, to help you with regulating your nervous system. And be mindful of your posture, deep exhalation, eye contact to really activate your social engagement system, which helps you to regulate your nervous system through co-regulation. So it can be really helpful to invite a body scan, check your shoulders, jaw, chest, stomach, some of those really common spaces where you feel a lot of triggered energy. Might be different for you, but these are some common ones. Invite a softening into your sensations, being with them, not fighting against them. Invite a release or softening into any places that feel tense. Notice how your body responds when you are speaking up for yourself or asserting boundaries. And invite exploration around any small movements to help with releasing any stuck energy. It can be really helpful to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Again, this is to help with like acknowledging and detaching from that triggered part of yourself. It can be really helpful to label your thoughts and create distance. So there's a part of me that's thinking this, there's a part of me that's feeling this way. It's not all of me, it's just a part of me. So this is how you can really work on identifying, connecting, and validating those triggered parts of yourself. Always making space, being really careful not to invalidate or dismiss your own inner experience, even if it feels irrational. It's like, oh, a part of me is feeling it this way, and that's okay. Because when we can dismiss and shame ourselves and minimize what we're feeling. All we're doing is inviting shame into the mix on top of everything else. We're not actually making anything go away. You really want to focus on creating safety and inviting presence before you go in for any communication with anybody. Focus on your breath, your posture, your sensory awareness to keep you in the here and now. Visualize your internal safety and build trust with your inner system. So you're building trust with all of those triggered, activated parts of yourself so that they can step back and let you lead from your self energy instead of those triggered parts of you dominating the conversation. And when we're doing that work, we're really inviting that deep experience of rewiring our nervous system, creating safety from the inside out. So I really want to invite you to consider an exploration around your emotions and your sensations in your body. So this is going to really help you to connect to your self energy in that acknowledging and validating part. So I've just listed some common basic emotions here. Create your own list of emotions in your own words. The language we use really matters. The only thing I'm going to suggest is that you make sure you're actually identifying an actual emotion and not a thought or a belief or a story. For example, a really common one is I felt disrespected. I felt dismissed. I felt ignored. Those are not emotions. Those are beliefs we're making up. So maybe I felt angry when you were looking at your phone when I was talking to you because it made me believe that you were ignoring me. I ended up feeling rejected as a result of that. But the actual emotion would be anger, fear, sadness, loneliness. So, like, make sure you get to the actual emotion. You're not naming the behavior or the impact of the behavior, because that could become another debatable point when you're communicating. And I'll go into that a little bit further later. But just for example, think about the difference between saying, I felt ignored when, and the other person could say, I wasn't ignoring you. And you say, yes, you were. No, I wasn't. Yes, I was. So then we're actually creating a new conflict, debating this detail instead of actually getting to that problem. So I felt an actual emotion when you did this actual specific behavior. It's really helpful to create that clarity. And as you're identifying the emotions, it can be also really powerful when you're really inviting safety and connection into your internal system to connect to the sensations in your physical body that are connected to these emotions, because ultimately our emotions live in our bodies and we have to invite connection to our bodies and the sensations in our bodies to be able to build that awareness and build relationship with our system. The next step is identifying your core beliefs. So when we can notice these common core beliefs that we're telling ourselves over and over and over again, we're going to be developing more self-awareness and a deeper connection with those triggered parts of ourselves, which again is going to help us to become self-led instead of parts-led. There's a party that feels really angry when someone isn't looking at me when they're talking to me. It makes me believe that I'm a burden, that I'm invisible, that I'm alone, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, whatever it is that gets triggered. As you go through these exercises and start building your awareness about yourself, you will notice that the same triggers, like the same triggered beliefs, are going to come up again and again and again for you. And then you have an invitation to link these emotions and belief systems to a triggered part of yourself. And from there, you can do a lot of work in building connection with that part of you, recognizing it as separate from your self energy, and also ultimately lead to some work around unburdening those parts of you if that's a path that you choose to take. So, like I said, our core beliefs often shape how our inner world is responding. So that internal family system, this is where this is coming from IFS. So those inner parts of ourselves that carry these emotions and beliefs. Each belief carries an emotional charge that is usually felt in the body when we can invite that awareness in. So bringing awareness to these patterns can really help you to meet these parts with compassion and begin to shift from that reactivity into self-leadership. So notice which part of you is activated. A part of me feels, what is the somatic response? Invite a softening into that space, breathing into that space. Invite your energy into that space in your body and be curious about it. Hold it with compassion and not judgment. Offer presence to that part of yourself holding that belief instead of blending with it or dismissing it. So it can be helpful, and experiment with this for yourself because it works differently for everybody, and safety is created in our own bodies in different ways. But you might want to consider placing a hand where you feel this belief in your body, where you feel this part of you in your body, or maybe even holding a hand close to that area. See how that feels for you. See if that creates more safety or less safety, and do what works for you. Invite that internal dialogue, asking, what does this part of me need to feel seen, safe, supported? What does it need me to know and understand? Stay connected to your breath, stay curious, and allow yourself energy to offer comfort and perspective. Sometimes what happens when we begin this work is another part of ourselves will become activated, and then we have an invitation to map out our system to invite deeper clarity. And if that's something that you want to do, then I would encourage you to maybe book some one-on-one sessions, not necessarily with me, but with somebody who is experienced in internal family systems work, to help you to really get a deeper understanding of what's going on within your own internal system and how you can support all parts of yourself. So I just have a little awareness building reflection tool here that I made to help you in identifying the triggers, emotions, your somatic response, the impact it has on you, that root of the problem. What is the core belief that was triggered? What is the memory that it reminds you of? Maybe it's something from your childhood. Maybe it's something from a past experience that really is adding extra energy to this interaction and why it's so painful for you. Identify your needs and wants, and if it feels appropriate, invite some boundary setting around this as well. So I just have an example here. Maybe, well, what's the example I gave before? So the spouse is not engaging with you while you are talking. Invite your own awareness around your emotions. Maybe there's anger, loneliness, sadness. How does your body respond? Take some time to think about this. Maybe there's an emptiness in your chest, heat building in your throat. The impact. Well, I feel angry towards them. I'm wondering if they care. Perhaps I have an urge to ignore them back. Or maybe another part of me has an urge to yell at them. Or maybe another part of me has an urge to engage in passive aggressive behavior, slamming doors, sighing, or maybe to completely withdraw into more of a passive style of communication. So the core belief here, I don't matter, I'm unworthy, I'm not important. A root memory, perhaps being ignored by a parent or sibling or peers in your childhood. What do I want? I want my spouse to engage with me when I talk. What I need is for them to make eye contact and show me interest in what they're saying. I want them to show an interest in what I am saying. And what is my boundary? So that's what I kind of say this as like, this is the giving your power away part. This is what I want. I've identified what I want. Here you go. Please take this and do something good with it. The boundary is, what am I going to do to empower myself regardless of what the other person does or doesn't do? So maybe my boundary is, I'm going to tell them how this triggers me, and I'm going to tell them what I need. And then I'm going to stop talking to them when I feel ignored, and I'm going to give myself space and remind them that this has happened again. So what that would look like is to be like, hey, I see that you are like not looking at me while I'm talking to you. I have already said before that I really need you to make eye contact when I'm talking with you. I'm feeling really upset right now, so I'm going to go take some space right now. And then when I come back, I would really appreciate it if you would make eye contact with me next time. So that could be the boundary piece. I'm looking at self-protection instead of control and manipulation. I just have another example here. Perhaps a child is having a tantrum. Your own emotions, let's say it's anger and fear. You feel tightness in your chest, shortness of breath, clenched fist, racing heart. Pay attention to how your body responds. Impact. Maybe you have an urge to control your child's emotions. Maybe you have an urge to control your child's behavior. Maybe you have an urge to try to stop the tantrum. Perhaps you have like a protector part of you come out that wants to yell at your child, or maybe ignore to distract yourself from the triggering behavior. Whatever it is, pay attention to what the impact is of your child having a tantrum. What's the core belief? I'm powerless, I'm helpless, I'm incapable. Maybe it's even like, it's my fault. I did this, I caused this, whatever, wherever it goes for you. Memory, and that might be hard to locate sometimes, but there often is a memory associated. So see if you can dig a little deeper and see if you can identify a memory when you are noticing triggers coming on in your life. So perhaps there's memories of a caretaker caregiver, losing their temper when you were a child. Perhaps there's memories of a previous partner who was abusive or yelled or screamed at you. So a child tantruming can really trigger that like lack of safety in your system. What do you need? Well, I want them to stop having a tantrum. I want support when this happens so I don't have to deal with it alone. Identify your own needs and wants when this is going on. So the boundary, you're going to make space for your own grief around this. So ultimately, your child is probably going to have another tantrum. So it's like I'm going to look at really my own boundary for myself as I'm going to look at adjusting my expectations so they can meet reality. I'm going to make space for the grief that comes with this. And look at how you can learn and practice grounding strategies to support yourself through the tantrum and help your child to acknowledge their emotions and ground themselves with you. So you're going to look at setting and maintaining boundaries to help keep yourself and your kids safe. So this is more of some like containment boundary work, some boundary work for yourself, because your child is going to do what they're going to do. So how are you going to support yourself through it? In the handout, I have some extra room for you to do your own writing, to come up with your own common triggers to help you in building your awareness around this. So I really want to encourage you to take some time to identify some recent triggers or recurring triggers and do this exercise on a regular basis to help you in expanding your awareness and moving forward with a greater ability to detach and use your power to support yourself. Identify all aspects to help you to recenter and communicate from a grounded, centered state instead of speaking from a triggered part of yourself. So when using this following exercise as a communication tool, I'd really strongly encourage you to consider expressing curiosity towards the other person to understand where they're coming from before sharing your perspective. Consider acknowledging and validating their experience, asking more questions if you need to get more clarity. If you are really upset by what has happened, you're probably going to really need to actively ground yourself throughout this. And it just might be worth the effort. This could open the possibility of gaining a deeper connection and a greater understanding of the other person and open more capacity for your feelings to be heard by them afterwards. And sometimes you might actually wait till a later time to share your perspective, but always trust yourself on the timing. So an example of this could be like if you have something to address with the other person, before going in and saying, oh, it really bothers me when you XYZ, what you would do using this suggestion would be like, oh, hey, I've noticed you doing XYZ. I'd like to understand what's going on for you when that happens. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? So I'm grounding myself first because there's a part of me that really wants to speak and say my side of it. I'm going to be compassionately shelving that so I can invite connection first. Tell me more about that. Help me to understand what's going on for you. So the other person says, oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't even notice I was doing that. I don't know why I do that. Oh, interesting. Is it okay with you if I tell you about the impact that has on me? Or maybe they're like, oh, yeah, I do this because of all of these reasons. And maybe you're like, oh, wow, that makes so much sense. I really understand what's going on for you there. And in this case, there might be a temptation to not say you're part of it. But I really want to encourage you to consider that there's a difference between intention and impact, and both matter. So maybe after hearing why this person does what they do, you recognize their intention was not malicious. You recognize their intention was not to hurt you. And yet the reality is that you have been hurt by what they did. So you can acknowledge what they have said. Oh, wow, I can understand what's happening there. Thanks for sharing where you're coming from. I can see that you are doing XYZ because of these reasons. Thank you for sharing that with me. It's actually had a totally different impact on me, and I want you to understand the impact it has on me. Maybe you're not asking for them to even change anything about themselves, but you're just sharing to be seen and understood. So keep that in mind. It's really hard to do sometimes, to open up that curiosity towards the other person before sharing. But let me tell you, it makes the world of difference. So keep that in mind and maybe experiment with it a little bit and see how that works for you. Always be mindful of your goals before you go in for communication with other people. Consider, am I sharing to be known? Am I sharing to be seen? Am I sharing to be understood? Am I sharing to invite a deeper connection with this person? Am I sharing to protect myself and set a boundary with this person? Be mindful of what the purpose is of why you're sharing. consider, am I sharing to try to get a sense of control or to manipulate the other person to do what I want? And if that's the case, then that's an invitation to pause and consider, do I need to actually share this at all? Do I have any power or control over this other person? Is that my business? Is that my job? Just remember that you are always powerless over other people, and you do not have any, what am I trying to say here? You're not responsible for other people's feelings. Like, you actually are powerless over other people, and other people are powerless over you. So we can impact other people with what we say and do, and it can result in them having feelings, but we are not responsible for their feelings. I yelled at you, you felt a lot of loneliness, you felt really angry, you felt like you weren't good enough. I did not cause you to feel or believe those things, but I had an impact on you, and the result was this. So I can take accountability for the impact I had, but I still don't have power over you. I know that can be a little bit hard to wrap your head around, but it's really important to consider that to invite some more autonomy and personal responsibility. So just remember that it's not about you. Other people's reactions has way more to do with them and their own past experiences than it has to do with you, and the same is true for us. When we're sharing to be known, it creates vulnerability and opens the possibility for deeper connection. And this happens when we are speaking from self energy and not reactive parts. So remember that no matter how well you deliver your message, not everyone is going to meet you there. Some people will respond with understanding, and other people may not. So some people are really not going to like what you have to say, no matter how carefully you plan it, no matter how well you speak it. Make sure that you create safety in your vulnerability. So only share what feels safe and appropriate, and protect your inner world without abandoning yourself by over explaining. I have a communication format here that I'm going to share with you. And I just really want to prelude it by saying that not everyone deserves all parts of this. So you choose, like, I think doing the formula is really helpful for your own awareness, writing it all out. But then you choose very selectively with who gets to hear what parts of it. And maybe when you're sharing to be known or sharing to set a boundary, you're going to share all of it if it's someone that you feel really safe with, or maybe you're just going to share the key points if it's somebody that really hasn't earned that trust with you yet. And just one last thing about this part about, am I sharing to control or manipulate? It's like, well, yeah, I'm sharing because I want them to stop doing this. So that's okay. You're sharing to be known, and you're sharing with a request. So are you trying to seek control? Maybe you want to control the situation because you want them to do something differently. That's okay. It's okay to want that, but you just have to pair that with a recognition that they may not do what you want. And then that's when we have an invitation to look at, how am I going to shift this into a self-protection lens? So I am still inviting safety for my system, regardless of what the person does or doesn't do. So before we go in here, again, just remember, not everybody deserves all of this. So be really, really mindful of that. I always encourage people to open with connection. If you've ever heard that term of like sandwiching feedback, it can be really valuable to avoid rupturing relationships further, to start with a positive connection and end with a positive connection, and you're putting the tricky stuff in the middle. That way you're really focusing on like your goals of really keeping that relationship intact, helping to invite this respectful and empowered communication strategy here. So you're opening with connection, acknowledging the other person, acknowledge the relationship, acknowledge your positive intention. Be focused on your tone of voice and your non-verbal communication, your body language. You're really wanting to signal safety for your own system. You're wanting to signal safety for the other person. And again, with different people, that part's going to look different with this connection piece, but I'd encourage you to do it with anybody, no matter how close or how distant you are with this person. Always open with connection. It's going to help to create openness in them. It's going to help to bring their walls down. It's going to help them to be more aware and more open to hearing what you have to say. Something that I didn't write down here actually is to seek consent. So you want to say, is now a good time to talk? I have something that I need to share with you. If like, oh no, I'm really busy, I'm in the middle of XYZ, then okay, well, when is a good time to talk then? I have something really important I need to speak to you about. And sometimes you have to follow up and sometimes you have to work really hard to get that. But just really consider that seeking consent first is a really important part of this. Otherwise, we might end up catching somebody when they're in a really triggered state, and it's actually can create more dysfunction, which we don't want. So if they have consented, then you want to consider sharing these parts. So I feel, going back to what I shared with you a few slides ago about your emotions, physical sensations. I feel sad. I feel a heaviness in my chest. When? Describe the specific behavior or event that triggered you. Stick to facts. Share only one issue at a time. This is so, so important. Don't say every single time that you. Don't say, oh, well, when you, and keep it vague. You want to say, oh, yesterday, this is what I noticed happening. Name the specific factual pieces of information that are not debatable. Because again, this is somewhere where a new conflict can come up when you're like, oh, every single time. What do you mean every single time? I've never done that before. Or, like, just the more vague you are and the more that just it leads to more problems. So you want to be super specific, try to stick to one single issue. Because again, not everyone deserves this piece of information, but some people do, and sometimes it will really invite more connection and openness. So, what core beliefs or past experiences were triggered? What memories or impacts came up? So, often you might be more likely to share the impact, less often, because again, less people deserve all of the nitty gritty details about what's going on for you. But in closer relationships, sharing those core beliefs or past experiences can be really beneficial because you're inviting this person to have a really deeper look inside of you. Like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that when I did that, it reminded you of all of those awful things that happened. I didn't realize that that made you think these things about yourself. It's going to really invite a lot more compassion and connection with the right people. What do you need from the other person to feel supported, respected, or safe? Like, what is it that you are asking for from this person? Sometimes you're not going to share that part. Sometimes you're just sharing, like, oh, yeah, this is the impact that this had on me. And that's that. You're just sharing to be known. So in that case, the I need would be like, I just need you to know that about me. I need you to be mindful of this information when you are doing this next time. In that case, you might not have the I will part, but maybe you will. So just consider this I will part as your own protection boundary. How will you use your own power to get your needs met if the other person does not respond in a way that you need them to? So really being mindful that this is a part of self-protection, self-empowerment, not threat or control over the other person. You're really looking at self-focus here. And then again, you want to close with connection, reaffirm the relationship, reaffirm your goal in the communication in the first place, your care, your shared intention. You really want to signal collaboration and not control. So, some response guidelines for you. I really hope that there's some couples doing this workshop together, and then you can use this together to help you in having healthier communication with one another. And I have some response guidelines for you. So, if somebody shares that previous slide format with you, then you will know how to respond. So, when anybody shares their feelings, concerns, or boundaries, the way you respond can either build trust and create connection, or it can create distance and defensiveness. It can create a further rupture, which we don't want. So again, like I said before, intention and impact are not always the same, but they both need to be acknowledged. So let's look at this framework as a way to foster mutual respect, understanding, and emotional safety. Number one, thank them for sharing their experience with you. Number two, validate and acknowledge. Use paraphrasing without being condescending. Your apology or repair would be great to insert here if it feels appropriate. You don't always offer an apology because there's not always an apology needed, but when there is, this would be when you did it. So thank you so much for sharing this with me. I can see why that really hurt you. I understand that when I did this, this is the impact that had on you. I'm really sorry about my part in that. I really didn't mean to have that impact on you. And that paraphrasing can be really helpful because then you're just communicating a direct understanding back. Next, you want to seek clarification to enhance your understanding. Sometimes in that validate and acknowledge step, that's when that clarification is going to come, because you might validate and acknowledge, and the person will be like, oh no, that's actually not what I meant. This is what went on for me. So you really want to make space for that clarification to happen if needed. And maybe you're acknowledging it, you're thinking, I don't fully understand it yet. Can you tell me more about this situation? Can you help me to understand this deeper? Was it when this happened? Was it when that happened? Was it because of this? Really seek clarification with a lot of openness, with your goal in mind of fostering deeper connection in the relationship. You want to hold space here. You don't want to rush to share your perspective, because that within itself can become invalidating. Oh yeah, I can see that hurt you, blah, 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 but this is what was going on for me. Because then we actually accidentally jump into pulling in excuses, defending, deflecting, minimizing, which all of those things are sabotage for relationships. So you want to share your perspective when it feels right for both of you to move on to this. Do not rush it. It's not going to be good if you rush it. If the intention and impact don't match, then first acknowledge the impact. Oh yeah, I can see that this is what was going on. I can see that when I did this happened for you. That actually wasn't my intention. This is what was going on for me. My intention behind this was this. Or maybe I had no intention. Maybe it was just totally accidental and I was absent-minded about it. It's possible to be sorry for the impact and also be clear, create clarity around your intention, and notice that there is a difference. So when I say share your perspective when it feels right, just thinking about holding space. You've thanked them for sharing. You've appreciated that this vulnerability has created an invitation for closer connection. You're validating, you're acknowledging, you're repairing or apologizing if necessary. You're seeking clarification. You're holding space. You're letting this person really sink into a softness of feeling seen, held, and supported by you. You're giving that as much space as it needs. And then just check in with yourself on timing. Maybe you're like itching to share what was going on for you. So you might check it out and be like, oh, do you mind if I share with you my perspective of what happened there? Because it was actually different than what happened for you. And see, is now the right time, or should we talk about this part of it later? Because again, this consent piece is so important so that we can create that openness in communication. So here I just go on a little bit deeper into each of those points. So you can take some time to read through there. So to start bringing this workshop to a close, I really want to emphasize that awareness matters more than anything else. You really want to invite that deepening of your self-awareness so that you can act from that place of clarity, confidence, so you can use your courage and lead from self-energy. So you want to notice your emotions, triggers, and core beliefs. Observe what parts of you are activated and where those sensations show up in your body. That's how you can be with it and lead from your self energy instead of not paying any attention to those triggered parts, which is actually going to lead to the parts communicating for you, which is never goes well. Recognize that all conflict is not resolvable, and that's okay. You really want to look at using your power. Identify your needs and wants clearly. Make your choices and act from self energy, not your reactive parts. Communicate clearly, be specific, be factual, be as respectful as you can be, and be assertive as well, so that you're not giving your power away, and so you're not accidentally like dominating and trying to have power over others. You want to understand your own communication style and the impact it has both on you and on relationships, and invite exploration around those assertive style of communication. Pay attention to your nonverbal cues, your posture, gestures, facial expression, and tone. Practice the assertive statement formula that I offered with your own somatic awareness. Notice what's going on in your body to help you with connecting with the triggered part and staying grounded. When repairing, always ensure that you take full accountability without defending or excusing your behavior, because you really want to focus on building positive and empowered relationships instead of exacerbating the issue. Somatic integration. Ground your body before challenging conversations and during challenging conversations. Scan your body for tension, shallow breath, or tightness, and use some somatic tools. Use those grounding strategies to re-anchor yourself and your self energy and release any stored sensation, really connect with and detach from the reactivity within you. So, just some tips for you for some ongoing practice to try to track 1 or 2 challenging conversations a week and journal your insights about your emotions, triggers, and activated parts. Feel free to use the handout with the chart I provided to help you in really unpacking and exploring what is going on for you internally. Apply your grounding strategies, apply the assertive communication techniques consistently to build up that skill within yourself and get better at it. And remember that growth takes time. This is not going to be immediate. It's going to be gradual. You're going to make some mistakes, and that's okay. Practice self-forgiveness, practice self-compassion as you're moving through this. Every single time that you notice, respond, and communicate from your self-energy, you are going to get better at it. It's going to strengthen your ability to navigate relationships with clarity, respect, and confidence. So be gentle with yourself, practice, forgive yourself when you make mistakes, and also go back and repair when you make mistakes. You're trying to communicate assertively, you accidentally default to a passive aggressive, or an aggressive style of communication. You can always go back and say, hey, I want to try that again. I don't like the way I was speaking to you before. I'm really sorry about my tone of voice. Can I try saying that again the way that I wanted to? You can always go back and repair. Be patient with yourself. So thank you so much for joining me for this workshop today. I hope it was helpful for you. And make sure to download your handout for further support and to guide you as you practice. You can come back to this workshop as many times as you want, as long as it's still up. And feel free to reach out if you have any specific questions or need any feedback as you are working through this. As I mentioned before, check out our other workshops, Nervous System Reset and Empowered Boundaries, using your voice to get even more support as you continue your journey of exploring your own communication skills for respectful and empowered relationships. Thank you so much. Feel free to visit my website, www.theessenceofyou.ca. You can follow me on social media by searching @theessenceofyou, and feel free to send me an email at jen@theessenceofyou.ca if you have any questions.